Excellent. And we are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning into a very special edition of Off the Record on the People's Podcast this afternoon. We have a magnificent guest with us today, one who is going to give us some incredible information as well as inspiration, and that is none other than Sister Sharima. Assalamu alaikum, ma'am.
Walaikum salam. How are you?
I'm doing phenomenal. Thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on the People's Podcast. And on behalf of myself, my family, and the viewing audience of the People's Podcast, we want to thank you again. So for those who have not seen the part one of Sis Sharima, this will be part two. Please go back and watch part one because part one was phenomenal and gave us incredible perspective. And she's a great storyteller and she has great memory. So that's always a good thing. However, the reason I reached out to her this time for part two was because I saw a post that you made on Facebook concerning, a text that you sent out, and you were letting everyone know that you just had a great victory in your life. Can we start with that? You let us know what that victory is.
Yes, sir. I was diagnosed with breast cancer August of 2021, and I had 2 surgeries, and then I had a year of chemo and radiation. And as a result of the chemotherapy, I had developed a heart problem and high blood pressure, and I've never had any health problems, but the medication is cardiotoxic, means it can harm your heart. And because I have left-sided breast cancer, the radiation, I got a burn, and it was just ups and downs. But about a week or so ago, the cardiologist called and said that the damage is gone. So praise be to Allah, I'm doing much better. I'm on the mend.
Beautiful. Yes, ma'am. All praise is due to Allah. And what advice would you give to others who are going through medical challenges?
Well, faith is the most important thing. Because at first I was just very angry, and just like, why me? And then another voice in my head said, why not you? We're taught that we're all assigned trials. Who are you can't be assigned a trial. And the minister has been battling this for over 20 years. And that's the best example that we have of how to handle something with grace and dignity. And the believers were very instrumental in giving me strength because I just didn't feel like I had anything left to give, but I felt the prayers of the believers holding me up. And it's like, then I just accepted that if it's his will for me to go, I've had a great life. I have no regrets. My sacrifices, my faith, being a member of the Nation of Islam, my life has not been wasted. So I just came to terms with it. And all of the trials, the ups and downs, whatever, I was resolved that if it's his will that I go, then I go, and I leave a legacy behind me of faith and belief. So it was hard. It was hell. I can't lie and say, oh, it was so easy. It wasn't. It was hell. But I did traditional medication as well as natural remedies. I took soursop tea and baking soda with lemon and water, which will reverse it. So I didn't just say, oh no, I'm just gonna go the all natural route. If you do, that's your choice. It's a very personal decision, but I did both. I never lost a pound. And that was the running joke between me and the doctor. It was like, when am I gonna look like a cancer patient? I'm just as round and plump. I was like, when are my ribs gonna start showing? And she said, well, maybe that's what's keeping you so healthy. So I never lost any weight, but I had lost all of my hair, which was dramatic. I haven't been bald since I was a little girl, since I was a baby. And if they had told me my hair was going to fall out like that, I would have just shaved it off from the beginning instead of having it falling out in clumps. That was very emotional. And I went through, my ups and downs, people telling me, you need to smoke some weed. It's like, I'm not about that life. So I never did that. But I found a lot of natural remedies for pain because, you're in a lot of pain, you're weak. And I took bromelain and arnica, which helps with pain. And bromelain is an anti-inflammatory naturally. And I used arnica gel, which is from a flower, to help with the pain because, you just hurting from every bone in your body. You're just weak and sick. So I did a lot of natural things. And I was in the Dominican Republic last year, June, and I had a dream about the minister. He was talking to me like in the middle of the night. It was between Saturday and Sunday morning. And he was talking to me, and it was like he was doing a checkup of all of my systems, from the neurological, the respiratory, cardiology, everything. And he kept saying, "You're all right. You're fine. You're okay." And I kept like asking questions but in everything I kept getting ready to ask him, he was like, you're all right. You're fine. You can do it. And the next morning I got up, I was going to get some coffee, and I felt weird, like lightheaded. And I'm looking around for a chair like, oh, please don't let me fall out on my face out here and embarrass myself. So I'm looking for a chair, and I kept looking down at my feet because they felt weird. And then it dawned on me what was happening. I felt before like I was carrying around a concrete body cast, and every step was very difficult because my body felt like heavy, like every movement to walk up the stairs, to take steps, but it was gone. And I felt light. And I'm like, that's what it is. And I felt like I had a visit with the minister, and he healed me. He told me, you're all right. And from that point on, I felt fine. Mm. So all I can tell the believers is, we believe in a living God. I believe that Master Farad Muhammad was God in person, and he came to see us. He came to save us. He has many examples in front of us. And make your life count, so that whether you leave today or in many years, you made your life count. And that's what I'm realizing we're losing the great ones. But in a sense, we will never lose them because they're in our memory. They left a legacy in writing, in video, you know what I'm saying? And in person. Minister Ava Muhammad, Brother Minister Jabril Muhammad, and the things that they gave us, they made their lives count. So even though physically they're gone, they're still with us forever. So thousands of years later, people will be studying them, but we were blessed to see them in person and hear their voices. And we're a part of that legacy that they left. So, I just thinking about all of that, I had heard from every member of Public Enemy because I had to tell them, this is what's happening. And all of my brothers called me, and Sister Paulette, and they were just instrumental in holding me up because at that time I was just still angry, but they all called and supported me. Minister Kareem lined up the troops. They sent me money and cards and prayers and, just were very supportive. My Muslim family held me down, and I have no complaints. I'm just thankful to Allah to be a part of the Nation of Islam. I am grateful, for our minister. I went to Chicago, I think in December, after my last chemo treatment, and I saw the imam and told him, although I'm not here with y'all physically, those broadcasts are very helpful. The prayers of the believers. And it got me through, faith, because that's all we're going to have in the end. and think about your life and your service and your dedication and your sacrifice. It's not in vain, and we just want to make sure that those coming behind us, we're going to be tried. None of us are too good for it. It's prescribed for us. The Holy Quran is filled with ups and downs, peaks and valleys. But you're not supposed to just lay down and be like, oh Lord, no. You face all of your difficulty. In the Quran, it talks about if Muhammad dies or is killed.
Come on.
Will you then turn on your heels? The minister told us in person, no, you want to march on. And that's what we do. We soldiers for Muhammad. That's not a saying. This is Minister Akil, Captain Curtis. Not Minister Akil, Captain Akil, Captain Curtis, Captain Dennis, all of them keeping a watchful eye on us, growing up, protecting us. But these were our superheroes, what I'm saying? Keeping us out of trouble. And, when you grow up, you can get in trouble, but they were there to make sure, put you back on the right path. So I appreciate all of our brothers, our sisters, Sister Captain Aisha. She was my orientation teacher, And at some point I became boy crazy. It was like somebody took the curtains down and I noticed that there were brothers over there. For years, I never, and one day it was like, who is that? And she was like, that was the time. But we go through things, we grow, But the most important thing is have faith and study. Because if you don't believe, you're not going to get through it. That's my opinion. I don't know anything for actual fact. I can only talk about me. I heard some songs that helped me through. One was called Survive by Mary, and I'm a lyrical person. And it was deep. It's like, yeah, I will survive, and by the grace of Allah, I did, and another song by Hezekiah Walker, God Favored Me. And I don't think I'm anything special, but I recognize that God favored me because so many others don't get through. And if I didn't tell you I had cancer, you would never know. Because he blessed me to just not look like I was going through hell. People were like, you have cancer? I was like, yeah, I have cancer. And I talked to Dr. Rahman, because I've been praying, like, Allah show me what is the spiritual significance of having cancer? Because nobody could answer me. Why do I have cancer? After the fact, I found out it's because of me being at 9/11. So I was exposed to something because it was like these things happen sometimes. That was the answer that they kept giving me. And then later on, I find out it was from being on site, 9/11. So at least that made me feel better because it's like I have an answer. Because it was like, what? I'm offended. This chick thinks she's going to set up shop in my house. Well, I'm not fluffing her pillows and giving her the remote. She's got to go, So when you find that you have a disease, don't make it comfortable. Make it very uncomfortable so it can leave. You do not invite disease into your house. And this is the most important house you're ever going to dwell in. And me and disease can't live here at the same time. She got to go. Miss Ma'am has got to pack her bags and get out, so it's your attitude, and your perspective. You'll have good days and bad days, but with prayer, you'll get through it because it's always somebody situation that's worse. So.
Excellent. Yes, ma'am. Sis Sharima, you teaching, and man, I'm so glad. If it wasn't for that text message, I wouldn't have known what was going on, and I immediately told my family. We all started praying for you, and we're just happy that that you're with us and that you beat it. Allahu Akbar. I want to show you people showing you love all across the country. Sister Anita Rose, Assalamu alaikum. Sister Miriam, Sister Anita, and Brother Kennard from Mosque number 74. Brother Nelson Ramos from Massachusetts, alaikum salam. Sister Naima Muhammad, Assalamu alaikum family. And both Sister Miriam and Sister Naima says all praises due to Allah. Everybody's putting the hearts and emojis. Can't wait to put this on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of these places to continue to show love to Sister Sharima. Okay, so we have a lot of points that we want to follow back up with, but let's start with the 9/11. I didn't know, why were you there and what took place?
I'm a paramedic, and first of all, I survived 2 World Trade Center attacks. The first one in '93, I didn't die. And the second one, I was on duty in Brooklyn, and I was with he was then my partner, but he became my husband after. And Kiara is our 9/11 baby. Give some context. But this is other proof. I have a whole bunch of other situations that Allah is real. We were a paramedic unit, and we were not sent directly to 9/11. In fact, we were having a good argument, me and him. He was getting on my nerves. And I remember this morning vividly, he's driving and he was getting on my nerves. And I just started screaming at him, leave me alone, leave me alone. And he's driving and he's looking at me and said, you're crazy, right? You're crazy, right? And right when he's driving, somebody came over the air and said, I need this. There's a plane hit one of the World Trade Center buildings, and he was yelling out all of the resources that he needed. And then the radio went silent for a while, but I didn't think much of it because New York City is a no-fly zone. So I'm thinking it's a weather chopper, a little helicopter or something. And I'm still kind of in the back of my mind, how did that happen? But not thinking it's anything serious. So we get to this old lady's house, and she had called saying she has a heart problem, blah, blah, blah. But when we get there, she tells the truth that she's late for her doctor's appointment. So she called 911 because she was late for her doctor's appointment, but she didn't tell them that. And she waited until we got there, and then she went in the bathroom to take a shower. I'm watching the news, and they're saying it's a cargo plane initially. But the amount of time it took her to get out of the bathroom for us to get her in the truck, another plane hit. And this prevented us from being sent directly to it. And after we dropped her off, they sent us to the foot of the Brooklyn Bridge, and we couldn't find the patient. And that's when we saw all of the people walking across the bridge, and the nurse wanted us to take her across the bridge. It was like, no, I'm not assigned to that. Now, of course, at this time, we don't know really fully what's going on, but we got sent there the next day because all of the firefighters were still missing. And we were there all day with all of these different agencies, and the soldiers were arriving, and we're just outside listening to all of the cell phones going off, because those were from the firefighters that was trapped. We could hear their phones ringing. And we never went back. A lot of people kept going day after day, but we never went back. We made the decision, we're not going back, And about 15 years ago or so, my husband was diagnosed with cancer. Again, they're telling him, oh, these things just happen. Nobody in his family has cancer. He's never sick. But we just kept it moving. He got a surgery. He went through his treatment. Never thought about it. Here I go, a few years ago, And someone online contacted me and she said, isn't WTC taking care of you? And I'm like, what is that, a cancer organization? And she's like, you're funny. And she said, weren't y'all here? And I was like, yeah, we were there. And she gave me a number. And I said, but we only went one day. She said, I only went one day. I was diagnosed 2 weeks before you with breast cancer. So it was like, what? From one day? And she's like, yeah, I only went one day too. And she was my classmate, everything. So at least I had an answer, you know, and that made me feel better for whatever reason. It made me feel better because it was like, how do I have, like, it was just weird. And then when she said it, it was like, he was diagnosed years ago. Oh my God, we knew nothing because we left the next year to move to Georgia. So again, Allah's mercy, you know, protected us from being sent directly in the line of fire. And I've just had several incidents of Allah's mercy saving me, because it says he looks out for fools and babies. And I've been a fool and a baby in some instances. A few years ago, before being diagnosed, my daughter said she wanted to go to Vegas. So I'm trying to make the arrangements. And every time I try to make the arrangements for this hotel, it would show up in red letters. We're unavailable to make this reservation at this time. Please check back later, in red letters. And every few days I kept trying and they kept popping up with these red letters. And then one day it was like, I'm just determined I'm gonna make it. My brand new iPad shut off, went black. So I told her, I don't think it's meant for us to go, because my mother always said, if things are happening, stop, slow down, whatever. And I think the week of, I was on duty that Sunday night. And in the middle of the night, I heard about this mass shooting in Vegas. Do you know that was the hotel I was trying to make a reservation to stay in? Allah was like, nah, you're not going to be there. You're not running into this dude. You're not going to be there, just in case he changed his mind of turning it outward and you run into him in the hallway and he decided to kill. Allah fixed it for me. He turned and he shut it down, like shut off a brand new computer. Like, no. And when I showed it to her, it's still, the letters were in red. We're unable to make the reservations at this time. And I said, you see, you keep thinking Allah is a joke. I'm telling you, he will show you signs and he will save you if you're listening. You know, you have a funny feeling or you burn your shirt, you trip, trying to get out. He's trying to keep you alive, keep you from your destiny with death. You know, so listen, you know, it's like, it was just odd that whole day, the surroundings, it was just weird. And then when you look back and you think about it, and it's like, he saved us, you know, this argument, this weird old lady, all of it prevented us from going right in to the havoc, you know. Yeah, we got the side effects, but we're alive. We live to tell. You know, we live to tell. And like, keep your faith, and he gives you that voice, but you got to be listening, you know, and praying. It's like, I'm, you know, Lord knows I'm no saint, but I do believe.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That's all. That's my advice. It's like, study what we are supposed to believe so that you can stand on that foundation, you know, because it's not going to always be somebody there spoon feeding you. You're going to have to open up some books and read for yourself, you know, and read the books. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad wrote these books long time ago. They're more true now than they was when he wrote it. And that should tell every one of us, he is not a liar. The minister is not a liar. This is the truth. They have lost founds listening. Said, didn't Farrakhan and Muhammad tell you to watch the weather? They ain't believers, but they recognize that this man has been telling you for over 40 years. Watch the weather. They trying to blame it on global warming. He said, yeah, that has a part to do with it, but that ain't it. That is God whipping America's behind, whipping them everywhere they are because they've been wicked. And they think they're just going to continue being wicked and there's no penalty. There's justice, and our God is just. You know what I'm saying? For what they did to us and are still doing to us, they're going to pay.
Well, praise be to Allah. Yes, ma'am. Sis Sharima was teaching today. And thank you very much for your honesty and your transparency. And people are showing love all across the country. Thank you for everyone who likes, shares, and subscribes to the People's Podcast. Thank you to Brother Kente Russell, Brother Musa from New York, Sister Auntie on YouTube, all the YouTube family in the comments who show love, and people who are bearing witness right now for saying, speak, sis. Yes, you better go, the finger snapping and all that good stuff. All right, we have a quick commercial break for all of the sponsors of the People's Podcast, and we're coming right back to our sister, Sis Sharima. If you please put the comments and the questions in the chat so we can ask Sister Sharima some more questions. And boom, there we go. One moment. Thank you, everyone.
Camera and a drone. He does television and film editing. Please reach out to him if you need any of those services. Sister Miriam's ABC I Love Me, children's book and coloring book, and now Spanish book. All three available on Amazon.com. Sister Naima's Stay on Point Dance Academy, LLC. She teaches ballet virtually to young girls all across the country, right here in the studios of Atlanta, Georgia. Brother Kenneth's Bow Tie Maker Extraordinaire. He'll ship you bow ties anywhere across the nation. Dr. Henry Carter's King Henry Turkey Legs, right here in Atlanta, Georgia. Brother Rashad Muhammad's COVID-19 Disinfected Cleaning Services, out of Chicago. Student Minister Sharif Muhammad's book, A Soldier in the Movement of Christ, available on adulsharif.com. And lastly, Brother Joshua Muhammad's book, Cleopatra, as well as No Father, No Excuse.
Excellent. As well as Minister Hott's wife, Sister Helen. She has a book of poetry called Exclusively for You, Black Man, the Black Man Sacred Book. A phenomenal book of poetry. If you would like to get that, HRSPATROL42@gmail.com. And we're coming right back to Sis Sharima, but we have one more commercial break from a new sponsor that we have. That there's a special event from Minister Bettine. May Allah be pleased. They're doing a tribute to him in Macon, Georgia. 1 second, just want to play that real quick. There we go. From Minister Bettine. Here we go.
Otis Redding III to the Funkadelic grooves of Batin. This town has produced some true legends. On August 6th at 6 p.m., we gather at the historic Douglas Theater to pay tribute to these greats of Macon. It will be a special night as the All-Star Band takes the stage. Joining forces, the band will perform songs that were dear to Batin, Jamal Thomas, Otis Redding III, and Tony Bone Dorsey. Tonight, they come together to create pure musical magic. The guitar effortlessly weaving melodic solos that touch your soul. The heartbeat of the rhythm section driving the groove with infectious energy. The All-Star Band carries on the legacy, echoing with the same raw passion that captivated audiences decades ago. Together, these extraordinary musicians pay homage to Macon's music legends, honoring the legacies that helped put this city on the musical map. This night at the historic Douglas Theater, we celebrate the spirit of Macon and the indelible mark these greats have left on the world of music. Don't miss this once-in-a-lifetime performance. Get your tickets now and join us for
Perfect. And welcome to Gina Tay and everyone who continues to show love all across the country. 1 second. As well as, here we go. We have one more sponsorship, and then we're coming right back to Sharima with her great story and her great testimony that is inspiring people all across the world. And we're truly grateful that she would take time to give us the inspiration. But we also want to support Asiatic Minds. It is a STEM school online that teaches children, young kings and queens all across the country. Please sign up for the next semester, and Sister Sherry will be coming on soon to promote her Asiatic Minds. Everyone, make sure you sign up. Boom. And that's Sister Sharima. You said two names. I mean, you said a name I want to go back to. Sister Paulette. Who was Sister Paulette?
She was manager for Public Enemy for years. She used to be married to Brother Nathaniel Jr., the senior. She wasn't married to senior. And she's just been traveling with them for over 30 years. And she let everybody know, because I reached out to Griff first, because a sister that used to be a S1W before I met them, Aisha, she passed away from breast cancer and nobody knew. And so I had reached out to Griff to tell him, because I didn't want, if it was his will, that I died and nobody know anything. So I reached out to tell him, and he told everybody else. And, everybody called, and, I talked to them. So that's how that took place. But she was my sister from New York. She was my big sis.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, ma'am. And Sister Audra says, Assalamu alaikum. Walaikum salam, family. Thank you, Sister Audra, for showing love as well, and always tapping into people's podcasts. Now, when you say Griff, you're referring to who?
Professor Griff from Public Enemy.
Okay, yes, ma'am. And how are you connected to him?
He used to go to the mosque with me. I knew him.
Okay, well, I'm saying, you're not talking to me, you're talking to something. You gotta explain to people's podcast audience, like what you saying.
Yeah, brother. Okay. He used to be Brother Richard in the mosque, number 7. I knew him before he became a part of Public Enemy. And I thought I talked to you about that. They did a performance in DC when I was living there. And Brother Steve got me to go to a club because they were performing afterwards. And he was like, Griff. And I'm like, I don't know no damn going Griff. And he's like, you know him, Brother Richard. And I'm like, I don't know who you talking about. He came out and it's like, Brother Richard, of course I know him. And I hugged him and he was like, you still drill? And I was like, yes, sir. He's like, I need you to come to New York and tighten these brothers up, whatever. And I, when I met them, I think a month later, I guess, I came to New York and I met them at the studio. And they weren't taking me seriously because it was like, who's this woman that he done told us is coming? Men have egos. And, I had them show me what they have. And in my opinion, they were terrible. So, they thought they was all that. They thought it was a joke. So Sharima got to them. They was like, hold up. I'm like, what are you doing? Oh no, this is not correct. So and that night, I think we did a performance at the Apollo, which was for Puffy. He was raising money for his summer camp. And Griff had me get on stage with them. But I'm like, I don't know any steps. And he's like, just stand there. He dressed me up in the uniform and, we drilling out. And he said, just stand there. No matter what happens, don't react. And of course, Flavor's acting a straight fool, doing his dance, and he leaning on me. Yo, gee. And he's doing all of this and that. And I'm just standing there. And people are saying, that's a girl. And I could see them like, ain't no damn girl up there. And they was like, I'm telling you, that's a girl. And all of a sudden people rushed the stage like, that's a girl. Oh my God. And that's how I ended up touring with them from that point on, because of the response that they got from it being a female able to drill, yeah, better than them. But that was over 30 years ago. That was 88. I was on the Run's House tour.
And how was the tour?
It was excellent. I met everybody. As a result of being on that tour, I'm in Will Smith's video for Nightmare on My Street. Everybody that was somebody was there. It was Eric B. and Rakim, Stetsasonic. That was EPMD's first tour. It was Public Enemy, The Fresh Prince, which is Will Smith and Jazzy Jeff and Ready Rock. Who else was there? And it was only me and one other girl on the tour. She was a backup dancer for Will Smith. And what I noticed about Will Smith was he was very disciplined. His camp was very different from everybody else's. He was like, I'm not gonna tell you can't go to a party, but I'm telling you, we got sound check it too. And he just ran a very tight ship. You know, it was like kind of nerdy, but that was cool. He was like, I don't want y'all getting involved in drugs. And these were his schoolmates from high school. That was his backup dancer, Charlie Mack, you know, which was his security, but all of them were from the same high school. I met his mom when we were, you know, because there was a lot of downtime between this video. The theme was Freddy Krueger, but instead of Freddy Krueger having his long nails from the movie, he had DJ needles. He wanted to replace Jazzy Jeff and be Will Smith's DJ. So he was stalking him and he was following him everywhere. He had a flat high top fade and he had on a jean jacket and he had gold fronts and he had on jewelry, and his girlfriend was Elvira. She had on this little raggedy wedding dress, and everywhere we went, he was there. And Fat Boy sued him so that the video couldn't come out because they had did the theme song for the Freddy Krueger's Nightmare on Elm Street's movie, and his was better than theirs. So that was our first beef in hip hop with the legal, you know. And I met, who else I met? The Jungle Brothers, Queen Latifah. I mean, I met everybody that was somebody. BDP, KRS-One, he performed that night. That was his first performance after Scott LaRock had gotten killed. That was his DJ. And he was still married to Miss Melody. And LL Cool J was there backstage. I met Big Daddy Kane. Heavy D was there. And I was talking to Kane afterwards, and I guess I wasn't impressed because I didn't understand that he was who he was. I thought Big Daddy Kane was a fat man because I'm fresh from DC. I've missed this whole thing, and he's asking me about these songs, and I'm just looking at him, and it's like, no, I don't know, no, And he said, "Ain't No Half Stepping" was his new song. And I started saying the lyrics. He was like, nah, that's Dougie's song. I have an Ain't No Half Stepping too. And I'm looking at him. I told him, I said, I thought Big Daddy Kane was a fat man. And he's laughing and everything. And he said, Word to the Motherland. And I knew that song because that had the minister's voice on it. And I just lit up like, oh, you made that song? Well, I mean, and now I got something to say to him, you know, because all the rest of it was like, he's like, you heard Nobody Beats the Biz, and this one and that one. And I'm like this. Because he was the writer for the Juice Crew. He wrote Have a Nice Day for Roxanne Shante. He was the writer for the Juice Crew. But of course, I don't live here anymore, so I have no idea what you're talking about. I live in DC now. So, but that was like huge. He had the minister's voice on Word to the Motherland. So now I'm excited. Like, oh, you have sense. Okay, I can talk to you. But everybody else was like, whatever. You know, I don't care. And who else did I meet this night? Everybody was there. And he was able to raise a lot of money. And that was when Puffy was just getting started. And he was different too than everybody else, because people had a tendency to blow off their interviews. People would be coming from all over the world to interview them, and they would just be like, man, I don't feel like getting up, because they were hanging out all night. But Will Smith, he didn't play that. So years later, when he blew up, it was like, because this man was disciplined. That's what's different from him and the rest. Same thing about Puffy. Puffy was disciplined. They used to clown him because he came in every morning with a shirt and tie on. He was like happy, and everybody else is in their jeans and sneakers and t-shirts, but he was like on time, had a good attitude. He didn't care if you sent him to get coffee, donuts, bagels, whatever. He would go get it. He was a go for it. But in less than 3 years, he owned the company. So look at this discipline that I got to see up close. It's like he's not just telling you a story. This man was disciplined. He was something different. The rest of his peers, they thought he was a joke. But who's laughing now? Dude is a billionaire. So is Will Smith, you know, but they were disciplined. That's what was different about them and everybody else, you know, and they got clowned too, because, you know, they were nerdy. They were middle class family. They couldn't talk about the slums and the streets because that wasn't their life. They talked about the stuff that was funny to them. His mother said she thought he had a nervous breakdown because he told her he wanted to be a rapper, and he turned down a full ride at MIT. And she's like, he said, well, give me a year. If I don't make it, I'll go to school. And he blew up in a year. And the rest is history. So you just never know. She said, I thought my child had a nervous breakdown. She said he came home talking about he wants to be a rapper. And I'm like, yeah, at that time you would think he's crazy. It's like he had a full ride. Because he's obviously very intelligent. He has a whole other side that we don't even know about, you know, and this has served him well, you know, over the years. You know, you look back at his career and others crashed and burned almost immediately. And Eric Sermon in Paris, they were EPMD. They went on their first tour for free because they wanted the exposure. But that summer, their album was #1. So everything's not always about money. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's about exposure. You take a sacrifice in the beginning because you get the big payout at the end. And they became huge, you know, and I was there to witness this, you know. Stetsasonic took a lot of heat because they were grown, but they had a band, but they were rapping. Unheard of. Their huge #1 hit was Sally. That was different. You know, everybody was different then. You know, everybody didn't sound the same. You were embarrassed to get on the mic and sound the same, you know, because they would disrespect you. They would take the mic out of your hand. You know, you're not coming up here sounding just like, what are you doing? And that was your thing, to be unique, you know, and Public Enemy had a message. BDP had a message, you know, and everybody strove to have a message because of the impact of Public Enemy. Because before them, everybody was wearing the big chains and everything, and they started making you be ashamed to wear that. So they started wearing the Black Africa leather medallions because that was their impact, you know. And of course, him telling you Farrakhan is a prophet that I think you want to listen to, you know, in one of his songs. But people listen, and their impact is greater in Europe than it is in America. And these Europeans listen to them, you know, and they banned them from England as well as the minister back then. They would not allow them to perform in England. But that was an honor to be in the league with the minister being banned, you know, because I'm speaking the truth. You don't want us here. But if I'm talking about shooting a nigga, killing a nigga, you know, oh, arms wide open, come on in, you know, the destruction, you know, but they were the parents of many that followed in their own way. You know, the poor righteous teachers, you know, they followed because they had to get this message out. But Chuck D, Rakim, Chuck D, Big Daddy Kane, Poor Righteous Teachers, and then many others, you know, X-Clan. The girl that ended up becoming a part of them, she was with us. She was Queen Mother Rage with them, but she was Lady of Rage because we had a female public enemy. And she ended up branching off and going with them. But yeah, we had some interesting times. You know, hip hop was different then. We was family.
Yes, ma'am. Excellent. And people were showing you love all across the country. Sister Queen is saying that's some Laker family. Sister Audrey saying cool history. She had it. Sister Khadij Bay saying X-Clan. People just showing, hearts and emojis, and everybody's going back to Yo MTV Rap days down the memory lane with you, Sister Sharima. Okay, boom. Now, when I was growing up, looking on my family, one of the things that we did was study drill tapes. And, drill was like very, it's part of the culture. And you were on teaching the Junior Vanguard, being a DI for the Vanguard and Junior Vanguard in New York. When you see where drill has gone now, what advice do you give to the young sisters about you being foundation? You were public enemy. Now drill is normal now. Now everybody's drilling, but when you were drilling, it wasn't as popular as it is now because it wasn't as mainstream. What advice do you give to the young sisters coming up who want to know what it was like with the OGs of drill?
Oh, we used to drill together after the mosque meetings every Sunday. Brother Anthony Grandmaster, he has a new name now. I think it's Brother Aziz. He used to call cadence for us, and we used to drill together every Sunday. And what I found was when you stop listening with your ears, because the whole purpose of drill is to be able to follow the command of one voice, you're no longer thinking. Because when you're thinking, you make mistakes. You hear and obey. That's what's going to make you a master driller, because you lose yourself. You're no longer thinking. You trust this one voice to think for you. It's just instinct, because you're no longer you. You're just following the command of that one voice, and your body will follow. That's how you become a great driller. You understand? And look at yourself in the mirror. I have never met anyone that I couldn't teach how to drill. I've had a few special eds. I ain't gonna lie, that I was questioning their blackness. However, I haven't met one yet that I could not teach how to drill and be a master driller. Praise be to Allah. It's that's the key. You have to lose yourself. The same thing when you become a Muslim. You have to lose yourself. You have to die. You have to write the letter. Dedication, concentration, and then submission. It's the same concept with drill.
Come on and teach.
Dedication, concentration, and then submission. You submit to that one voice, which is symbolic of the one voice of God. That's the purpose of drilling, to control the body. You know what I'm saying? To make it submit to the will of God, to the voice of God. That's the whole purpose. It ain't just about looking good and winning. Of course, we all like to win. I'm a sore loser, I ain't gonna lie. But, Allah has blessed me to meet warriors and friendships that we still have over 40 years later. Sister Ina Muhammad from Chicago, she was their drill instructor. Her voice is so powerful. I think it can wake the dead physically. Because when you hear her call, you hear God in her voice, and it just reaches into your soul and makes you respond, and to drill with her, I drilled with her at the Final Call building, because I told you we had a youth conference in '84 where the youth took over everything, all responsibilities for a week. And the minister had us come from all over the country. And that's when we met our counterparts for the first time. Because you think you just exist in a vacuum. But there was another me in DC. That was Sister Fatima, Sister A.T. from Phoenix, Brother Jabril's daughter. Ina was in Chicago. We had a youth minister, Michael Muhammad. I met Rasul up close and personal, Abdullah Muhammad up close and personal. Sister Andrea from Detroit. Khadija was from Atlanta. And we did the live radio broadcast. And Sister Ava called and said she think we saved the minister's life because nobody discussed what we were going to talk about that Sunday. But it was a common theme because that's when the Jews were threatening the minister, you know, and it ended up in the paper because it's like, we're different from our parents. We born for this. We don't have any fear. And that's the devil's worst nightmare. And it's like, you better recognize that the minister is your mercy. We don't have the heart of the minister. You know what I'm saying? And I hate to sound street, but it's like, if you move on him, you kill my dog, I'm gonna kill your cat.
Allahu Akbar.
Your granny, your kids, everybody goes. We have no fear. If we can't have it, damn it, the whole country will burn. And I still believe that. We ain't got time to play. We were born for this. You know what I'm saying? Born for it. We something different, you know? And that's what they fear. And I believe that Allah has protected the minister, but they know we're behind him and we're with him. We ain't marching no damn where. We ain't singing no songs. We're not turning the other cheek. The only reason we ain't got you yet is because the minister has prevented us from doing such.
Yes, ma'am.
Got time for these projects. I mean, it's like, look. You better recognize that that's God's mercy.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Because you don't want to deal with who's behind us. You know, that's fearful for them. We have no fear. Those who were born believers, do you know how special you are? What it took for you to be produced with how to give birth to a God? Don't you understand that that's who we are? All of the prophets saw us? That we're not reading some fairy tale? That when we read in the book, we're reading about ourselves?
Yes, ma'am.
How special we are in the world. They believing in a mystery God. When in Message to the Black Man, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad breaks it down that there is no mystery God. When you study the lessons, there is no mystery God. God in person came for us, the ones who were unworthy, who are regarded as being dead, waste of time. The president at that time, I think it was it Hoover that was the president? Because he was the president before FDR. He said when he heard about Master Farad Muhammad trying to teach the Negro, he said, that's like trying to put pants on an elephant. And the Savior wrote him back and said, I got one pants leg on already. You know what I'm saying? Look at these legacies. You know, people don't even know that it's because of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that they have religious schools.
That's right. That's right.
You know, we're walking on their foundation. People are even aware of the doors that we opened as a nation. So you better get in them books and study that history. You know what I'm saying? But we are absolutely the chosen of God. And when I look at people from all over the world, this light that we have, everybody doesn't have it. And I think sometimes we take it for granted, you know, especially in dealing with death. that we kind of think we're immune, but it's prescribed for all of us. We all have to go that way sometimes, some sooner than others, but you have to be okay with it. We were born to die. Make it count.
Excellent teacher, Sis Sharima. Excellent teacher. People are showing you love all across the country. I get some of these comments. Sister Audra says she's so happy that you reflect on that time at the final call. It was a special and important time. Everyone, please go back and watch Sister Audra's interview because she was in Chicago in the 80s as well. Minister Shaheed out of Dallas, Texas says that's right. The minister is their mercy. Alan Nadir is putting fire emojis. Sister Audra says she remembers that she was registering at. She was present at the meeting that you're referring to in '84, the youth meeting. Beautiful. Sister Junior Vanguard, Sister Khadija was our drill captain in 1984 at Mosque number 15. People just showing love all kind of histories. Khadija Bay says number 7, 5th Ave crew, great memories. Junior Vanguard taught him. Okay, boom. Sister Captain Sultana from Oakland is saying teach. She's a drill instructor as well. And used to teach the MGT back in the 80s, in the 90s as well. So as Sister Sharima would say when me and my siblings would watch, the battle may be hard, but it ain't too hard for the Vanguard. You know what I'm saying? So
that's right.
So we would always watch your cadence. Speaking of Vanguard, when dealing with my moms, you were one of the first people to reach out to me and, you know, call me and always be very kind. If you can give your favorite memory of my mother real quick, because you knew her before I knew her. So your favorite memory of my mom's?
Before I met your mother, I had met your dad. And he was the one that helped train us to prepare for being the first female Vanguard to protect the minister at Savior's Day. And also Brother Jabril had some words for us beforehand. So afterwards, he told me, I wish you could meet my wife. I think you're gonna like her. And I'm just looking at him. He's showing me some bags and scarves and stuff he had bought for her. Do you think she's gonna like this? And I'm looking at him like, my brother, if you only knew, I hate purses, but I had to be diplomatic. And I said, I'm sure she'll love it because it's from you. And I met her, I think a year and change later when I moved to Washington. She was not there yet. She was going to move, I believe, from Ohio to DC. But that was my first time meeting her. And he was so happy that we finally got to meet. And she's very intelligent. That's my first memory of her, is that she was very intelligent. And I know it's going to sound terrible saying it out loud, but I don't like dumb people. And I just advise people that I love, don't marry a dumb woman because your children are going to be stupid. I'm sorry. It's like, I don't like that. It's like, But if your wife is dumb and your children don't know what I'm talking about, they really might not know what I'm talking about. It's because they're slow, for real. She came and I don't think we had a Vanguard class, and she wanted to start the Vanguard class. And I think she started the Vanguard class in DC. But at that time, your father used to travel all the time. And it's important that you make a good choice for your wife. And one of the things that Brother Kareem always used to say was, you don't have to be smart, but be smart enough to get yourself a smart woman. And that statement has layers. Everybody's not going to be book smart, but don't have an ego about it. Trust that your woman is smart and that she can take care of your household and your children when you're not present, because that's who represents you. So if your wife is looking raggedy and your children looking bad and you looking sharp, we ain't looking at you, we're looking at your wife. She is your representative. Your children are your little disciples. Make sure you make a good choice. Everything is not all about looks. It's about their spirit, their intellect. You know what I'm saying? Their belief. Because this is the person that's going to be forming your children. And they are not just listening, they are watching you. You know what I'm saying? So a new thing we have in the nation is these children know a lot of our phrases, but they don't know Islam. They just know word is bond and we don't eat pork and Allah is God and Salam Alaikum, but that's it. So they're like, their relationship with the God is like Christians' relationship with their God. They have Muslim names, but they're Christians. I call them the grafted kids, but that's just me.
Yes, ma'am. Praise be to Allah. And
Grafted kids, they look like us, but they ain't of us, you know? So we have to do a better job with making sure that they study and understand what we believe. We make the choice for you when you're under 16, but there's going to come a day that you have to make the choice for yourself, whether or not you believe, because that's crucial. That's what's going to get us through, you know, your belief. You know, you can't just be floating around in the air and you really don't understand what we mean when we say God came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. I keep coming back to that because that's the Black God.
Yes, ma'am.
You gotta understand that, the relationship about the 12 sciences. You have to understand how the circumference of the planet Earth relates to the 25,000 year history. All of this stuff is significant. These are not just numbers to sound fancy. There's a meaning behind it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You know?
Actually, okay, Sis Sharima, we're going to stay right there because we got a couple more follow-up questions. People bear witness. Sister Audra said, get yourself a smart woman, teach them that. Josh, you better be happy, y'all blessed. Yes, ma'am. The grafted kids and people like Sister Sana and Shahid and people, everybody's showing love. Sister Naima says, teach. Excellent. Okay, I want to go back to Minister Jabril's words to you before y'all went on stage. What did he say?
He told us to loosen up, relax. He said, because if you are too rigid, standing up there, you're going to fall on your pretty little noses and the whole world is going to see you. And your father was like, we're there with you. You know, you're not alone. We're there. We're watching with you. And it was just such a big deal. And of course, an honor to be there. That was one of the privileges of my life, you know, to be there. And the minister questioned us afterwards because he said there was a time that everybody closed in on him. He said, y'all had me looking around. He said, what was going on? And all of us said we felt something. And he looked at them, his normal brothers. He said, you see, men and women protect differently. They didn't see anything. They felt it. He said, all of them. He said, and they closed in around me. But what I remember vividly from that day is it's not us protecting him. There's a force around the minister, and that you could almost touch it, of electricity. We're just window dressing. We are not the ones that's truly protecting him. It is Allah and the messenger protecting him. But that was, you know, Brother Jabril told us to be observant and, you know, just watch everything. But like I said, we didn't see anything, but we felt something. And because it looked to me like the room got dark and that there was this cold wind that came past. And all of us like backed up onto him. And he's looking like, what the hell? And he questioned us about it. And but of course, nobody talked to each other. We didn't get a chance to talk to each other. And everybody said they felt it, you know? And he was like, you see that? That's different from brothers, you know? He said, they protect with what they feel. He said, they felt something, but we're looking for an obvious something, but I just felt something, you know? So that was it.
Beautiful. Yes, ma'am. Okay, we got 3 more points and then we let Sis Sharima go. And thank you all for watching and everyone who continues to show love to the People's Podcast. Okay, I want to go back to point number 12. Dealing with Master Muhammad, you said this is the point you go to, being a supreme being. This is the Black God. Why is that so important to you?
Because when I came back, I was 15, and I no longer believed that because I had become a part of the 5% Nation. So I didn't believe that Master Farad Muhammad was God anymore. And I was hung up on that. And, you know, I was like, in my mind, yeah, y'all cool. No, I guess I'll keep on coming out, you know, y'all right? But the minister was on a 6-week tour in New York at Friendship Baptist Church. And the name of the speech he gave, October 18th, 1981, was called The Time and What Must Be Done. And I remember writing, I don't know, I feel like my life is going to change today. I wrote this beforehand. I'm so excited. I don't know what I'm in for, whatever. And when I went, I was just mesmerized. And then I started going out every Wednesday to hear him speak. And I think the first Wednesday or the second one, my mother had wrote a letter to me from down south, and she sent the necklace with the star and crescent in it. And in my mind, she tripping because she was like, this is the flag you were born under, not this one, which was the 5% flag. And she was going into, this was the choice I made for you because I found this to be true. And I'm looking at the letter, waiting for the minister to come out, like, why is she tripping? And I remember he used to always go down the brother's aisle. And I remember standing up, like, when are you going to come down the sister's aisle so you can shake our hand too? So the next week they arranged for him to come down the aisle. And he came down and shook my hand. And then he came back and he looked at me. He said, I know you. And I'm looking at him like, man, you don't know me in my head. You know, you don't hardly know me. He said, I'm going to tell you who you are in a minute. He kept on shaking hands and he came back and he called my mother and father's name by their ex, John 47 and Emily 36. You could have pushed me over with a feather. So I'm holding this letter in my hand and him like identifying my parents. They left with Malcolm. So I'm tripping, like, oh my God, he knows them. He called them by their ex. He knows exactly who they are. My father used to be Malcolm's security. He was his body double because they were the same height, had the same long head, and used to wear glasses. So he was on his security team, but they left with him. I'm the only one that was raised under the minister because even though they left, they would allow me to go to the mosque. So it was just a big deal to me, like, how in the heck does he know who they are by looking at my face? This was crazy. And the same thing happened years later with Sister Captain Amina Rasul. I was standing on traffic posts because I wasn't old enough to do check posts. And she's looking at me and I'm waiting for her. And she looked at me and she said, I know you. And I was like, in my head, here we go again. And then it was like, but don't sleep on these old people. You know, they be knowing. She said, I know you, and I'm gonna tell you who you are. She went in, got checked, and came back, and she said, Emily, 36. I was like, what is it with them? What in the world? You know? And my mom came out the next day, and she hadn't stepped foot in the mosque in, I would say, almost 20 years. And she came out to see Sister Captain Amina and Sister Portia, because they had I think an East Coast MGT meeting to accept them back. It's just very interesting. But I was like, I'm going to continue on with them. And I used to come to every study group and come to every Sunday meeting, but I would not pray because it's like, I don't believe that. And I would ask questions and nobody could answer me. And I remember when I was finally graduated from orientation, I was ill, it took forever. Minister Ava had gave a homework assignment. And the homework assignment was, what makes Master Farad Muhammad God? And through me studying, I found the answer that nobody else could give me. I found it in the Quran. I found it in the Bible. He came in sinful flesh to condemn sin in the flesh.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
remember I thought that his father was the God because his father was Black and he was half original. His mom was Baby G. And I remember reading the lessons. And then I found the answer that I've been looking for, that Master Farad Muhammad could speak the language of the birds and the bees and it could control the universe, and how he pulled one of the stars to the moon and made a star and crescent in the sky as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was watching, and all these different miracles that he performed with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad watching. This man had a 3rd grade education, but he profounded scouts from all over the world. They could not defeat him, and built a nation within a nation.
Yes, ma'am.
He brought the dead to life with his word. And to prove that he is, in fact, who he says he is, he can do it again and again. We have many mighty warriors. Malcolm wasn't the only one, because that could have been a fluke. But look at what he did with Minister Rahman, Thunder, James, Shabazz, Philadelphia, Minister Farrakhan, Minister Akbar. And then his word is raising up giants. Minister Jamil, Minister Kareem, Abdullah Muhammad, Minister Ali Muhammad, Minister Ava Muhammad. This is just his word, through faith, not through visual, through faith, through his word, through his servant, his student. That's proof that we are following the word of God, because only God could raise us up. The messenger said he was in the mud so deep, only his eyeballs were sticking out.
Yes, ma'am.
You know what I'm saying? In the problem book, when he talks about his uncle and aunt having arthritis and all of these diseases,
That's right.
which comes from poor eating, and we were dying from toothaches because the pain was so bad. They didn't even know back in the 30s that toothaches could kill you. Now they know that there's a link between toothaches, but the master already wrote it in the book. They talking about arthritis and pain in all of her joints. This is from a poor diet. You know what I'm saying? Stress was killing us, not just starvation and not having a job, but look at how he changed our minds and told us who we were. Because we were lost.
That's
not
right.
just from our people, we were lost from ourselves. That's why they call us the Lost Foundation of Islam.
Go ahead and teach.
You know, and taught us about the rebellion, you know, ego, which was involved with Shabazz. You know, the Bible tells you about Lucifer. He was the greatest representative, but there was a defect in his character. You know what I'm saying? Iblis, that spirit, it's still present.
That's right.
You know
That's right.
Like, that ego will always get you in trouble. You know, you have to submit. You're not going to become a child physically again, but your mind has to be that of a child so that you can receive the truth and the word. And there's a degree of humility and curiosity that's in childhood that we lose because we think we know everything. We don't think we can be taught. And that's when you lose yourself. That's when hypocrisy steps in. But that's a whole nother subject for another day.
Go ahead and teach. Yes, ma'am.
You know,
Sis Sharima, people are showing you love all across the country. His name says good teaching. So the author says teach on this, such connection, and people are bearing witness. Like, I want to go back to your father. So how did he feel if he was the body double for Malcolm X, and then they don't come back, but they see their daughter going with the minister? What did he say? How did he feel?
Well, Well, my father was real close to Malcolm, and he believed at that time that we killed Malcolm. My mother did not, but before they became members of the Nation of Islam, they were street people. They was on drugs. Malcolm was the one that converted them. So they had a strong connection to Malcolm because he was their people. You know what I'm saying? It's hard sometimes for somebody that's always been righteous to talk to people who are unrighteous, that they don't think you can understand their struggle. But Malcolm was a pimp. Malcolm was a street hustler, drug dealer. That was their fault. And it's like, if you could change, surely I can. So
Yes, ma'am.
that's their connection. He is the one that converted them. And from my brothers and sisters, they said Malcolm used to come over to our house for dinner and stuff. I wasn't born yet. So I remember getting into many arguments with them. And I said, he was a hypocrite. Like, it couldn't beat me. And it's like, you wasn't there? I said, yeah, but I can read history. I'm telling you, he was a hypocrite. And they would back down because it's like, my allegiance is to the minister. As long as you with him, we go. But if you not, we ain't. Period. There is no confusion, no division for me. You ain't with him, you ain't with me. Love you though. You know what I'm saying? But so he knew that I was in the Nation of Islam and in the ministry and everything, and he didn't have a problem with it. And I think he considered coming out. He might have come out once, but the minister wasn't speaking. I think Minister Kareem was speaking, but he acknowledged that, this is the seed they made. You know what I'm saying? I'm theirs. And no doubt, them being bold and fearless is what made me. So they had this connection, My mother was more forgiving, but my father, he just did not want to come back. But she came out a few times, and even my grandmother acknowledged. She said, one thing I can say about Mr. Muhammad is he sure know how to make men. So they were something that the world has never seen before. But if you believe, look at what you can do. We read it all the time. If you have the faith the size of the grain of a mustard seed, that is so tiny.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Sycamore tree be uprooted and planted into the depths of the sea, and it would be. And we think these are just sayings and phrases. But when you look at the history of the Nation of Islam, that is exactly what happened. He made soldiers. He made men. He cleaned up prostitutes and drug addicts and made them turn their back on this. And it wasn't in the dark. The whole world had to bear witness that something happened in America, because them Negroes is alive. You know what I'm saying? Took that swine off your plate and started walking like you have some sense. Move it, because that swine make you move slow.
Yes, ma'am.
You know what I'm saying? You start looking like the pig. You get your mind right. You can change your whole community. My mother always used to say, ghetto is a state of mind. And I used to be like, yeah, okay, this the ghetto. But when you come to understand what she's saying, it is a state of mind. And we have God's mind. That's what inspires us to get up every day, to change our community, not just change ourselves, but our people in their way of thinking. Any way we can. We recognize that we're at war for the souls of our people, and I'm a grown-up. I don't claim understanding them children, but they have a different way of thinking. But we have to recognize that this is who's going to inherit it, whether we like it or not. So you better be available to answer their questions and to set an example. And it's not just about how you look. It is an internal thing that must happen. Study the books of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the study guide, study the minister, the moves that he made. He hasn't lost any of us in this road. He could have easily called, kill them all, and we would have, without question. But he's been peaceful the whole time.
Yes, ma'am.
And humble, the whole time. And I couldn't do it. Yeah, I ain't built like that.
Beautiful. Look, Sis Sharima, we have 2 more questions for you, and then we're good. And thank you, everyone who's coming back. And Sis Sharima, everyone is showing, this sister has a spirit. She's teaching. We have to make this. We got to make this more ongoing. We got to keep bringing you back because you really are good at this. This is what it's like usually when I speak to you anyway. But I wanted you to finish the story about my mom's. You went somewhere else.
Oh yeah, she started the Vanguard in DC, and I moved back to New York in '88. It was not my intention to move back to New York when I went with Public Enemy, but she started the Vanguard in New York. Then they got a contract with, I think it was Paradise, this apartment complex. And that's where the Dope Busters began. Your dad and Brother Tim and Brother Akil. And that's another thing, making a difference, But your mom was instrumental in starting Vanguard in DC. But after this thing with the Dope Busters happened, they moved to Chicago, and your father became the supreme captain because he was just the captain of DC at that time. And he had the tape connection. And, she just had a very warrior spirit, and she wanted to be a part because before her, if you had children, you couldn't be a Vanguard. And she had 2 children. She had you and Mimi. Mimi was a baby. And she still wanted to find a way to make it possible because we have a lot of young sisters who come in, they teenage parents, and they shouldn't be deprived of the opportunity to serve their nation. So she figured it out, a way to make it happen. And then when she moved to Chicago, she started the National Vanguard program, and they unified it because the uniform that everybody had their own uniform, a version of what Chicago was wearing. The uniform that we have now as Vanguard was the drill uniform for Chicago. And they ended up making it our national uniform, and she unified the curriculum so that we were all being taught the same thing. So that's what your mom was instrumental in doing, having a whole program that was national. And she became the National Vanguard captain. And Sister Aisha was the National MGT captain. So that was your mom's legacy of bringing in even the sisters that have children. But before, you couldn't have children. And if you were married, you had to have your husband's permission to be a Vanguard.
Praise be to Allah. Excellent. And Sister Naima says, all praise be to Allah. And thank you, everyone who's watching, showing love. Thanks for streaming for this history, because I feel like I'm right here with you every time you tell a story. A sister asked in the comments about Minister Hafiz and your interaction with him.
I knew him from when I was like 13 years old. Him and my first husband went to school together from kindergarten through high school. And they were in a play together. I think he said Brother Hafiz was a tree, but Brother Hafiz was a member of the 5% Nation too. And we all came in the same time. Him and Brother Timothy, Barkim. He was Barkim, and Brother Hafiz was Tashim Allah. And he used to wear this big, giant wooden nameplate. And he used to be standing on the road. He's been 6'4" forever. He was 6'4", like we was kids. And he was always standing there, and he thought he knew everything. And I was with him, Savior's Day 2020, at the table with him, and we were laughing and giggling and having such a good time. I hadn't been around him in like 20 years. but he was very intelligent. But I remember when we all came in around the same time, but you know, our paths were different, because I don't think he had a problem with Master Farad Muhammad. I did. And it took me about a year or so to get over it, but through study, you know, but he became a part of the ministry as well. And Brother Kareem was sat down, and Minister Allah Muhammad came to New York, and he was the minister. So Minister Hafiz grew up under Minister Abdullah Muhammad, Allah Muhammad ministry class more than Brother Kareem. And we had Minister James for a little while. He was over the Manhattan Mosque, and Minister Kareem was in Brooklyn. And then we had Allah Muhammad, and we stopped with the Manhattan in Brooklyn for a while. And, but we had Minister Conrad. I met him when he was a college student at Penn State, because the minister spoke there. And that's when I first met him. And then a few years later, he became a minister. And we had Minister Khaled come by for a little bit. He was different. He was militant. So, you know, we like that, because Brother Kareem was extremely militant. So we had a very militant mosque. And they said that Minister Khaled's mosque in LA was militant. So, you know, we like that. We can relate. Can relate, you know. My fondest memory of him was when the minister spoke at Madison Square Garden. I think I talked to you about that.
Yes, ma'am.
That I did not think we were going to return alive. I thought this was it, you know, because the Jews were really after the minister at that time. And when we were on the train riding, it was so quiet, but it was nothing but Black people. And you kind of knew everybody was going where you were going. And when we got there, Madison Square Garden was surrounded, like, with Black people waiting to get in. And I remember somebody got up and made an announcement and said, if there are any former followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, can you please fall out and help us with the check-in procedure so we can move our people in? And at that time, the nation was still warring. We weren't at peace with Warith Deen and them at this time. But I'm telling you, I saw these soldiers, it looked like the dead got up. Them brothers snapped to attention, and you saw them left face and just march out and start checking people like no time. And then stood there in they plaid shirts and jeans, standing post. Because what they said was, they threatened him. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, look at him. He said, there will not be a hair on his head harmed. Even though we at war now with each other, they showed up and showed out to protect him, because there was a threat, a very real threat. And that unified us, because they stood up to protect him. Like, you ain't gonna do nothing to him, devil. Like, yeah, we with waters, but you will not harm him. So this was history, because I'm watching this. Like, what no? When I tell you, they to us, they look so different from us. You know how we look. We have this light on our forehead, and we have a light, and they just didn't have it. And I mean, 1 second.
Yes,
they don't, and they didn't dress like we dress, you know, really sharp. But when they stood up, and I'm telling you, them heads snapped. It was like, what is this? What is this? You know, but it was beautiful, to see. And of course, Minister Khalid was out there. Somebody came and got him and told him that it was these Jews outside protesting with their signs. And you know, brother was sharp, always. He had on his brown FOI uniform. He went out there and he bent down and did like this and saw them and started coming towards them. They threw the signs on the floor and ran.
Oh, whatever.
So it was a lot of craziness going on at that Madison Square Garden. Somebody had set a fire backstage and they was trying to have our people stampede and kill each other, trying to get out. And one of the brothers from the Minister's Security picked up the fire chief by his neck and said, if you pull that lever, that's going to be the last sound that you hear. Do you understand? That cracker was shaking so hard and let it go. He said, we'll take care of it. And the brothers put the fire out. You know, because we were over capacity. It was an overflow in the Felt Forum, and it was like 10,000 people still standing outside. But you would have caused us to die because we ain't set the damn fire, you know. But brother picked them up and said, if you pull that lever, that's going to be the last sound you hear. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Praise be to Allah.
Praise be to Allah. We have mighty warriors. FYI, mighty warriors. They're not window dressing.
That's right. That's right.
You know, praise be to Allah. You know, I remember I met your dad. I was a teenager. I ain't know their names. They used to just be the brothers in the trench coat, him and brother Akil.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
I found out what their names was when I moved to Washington. Because we used to have the mosque meeting at the Howard Inn. And they were sitting there, but I recognized their faces. And I came because I was going to go to Howard. And they was like, you need anything? You need my own? No, sir. And they was laughing at me. They was like, she don't know, right? And I'm like, I don't know what. They was like, you'll see. And I found out, yeah, you be hungry and broke as a college student. But I didn't know because I'm not from a college town. It's like you be hungry and broke as a college student. But they knew in advance, you know, because they're used to it. And, you know, we've just met so many great believers, you know, and everybody has different gifts. And I see it still continues. You know, your uncle's memory is incredible. You know, he's probably a genius and he's funny, you know, but I remember when I first met him, you know, I was a teenager, but I remember him. And they used to come up from Philadelphia, top of the clock. But we've evolved, but we have to reproduce ourselves. It's great that you're great, but how long is your legacy going to live? Because we don't live forever.
That's right.
Our job is to reproduce ourselves, pour everything into somebody or several bodies. You know, Minister Kareem's thing was New York should have more than one great minister. It should have many ministers. And that's what he did and sent you out. And that's how he built up the East Coast. You know, and we have to not forget that. It's not
Yes,
all
ma'am.
you. You got to reproduce yourself. When I look behind you, I want to see 100 years. You know what I'm saying? That spirit is repeated. We all have our own gifts. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was the sun. And when we reflect the light, we show up as different colors. Reproduce that. You know? We got to reproduce that.
Yes, ma'am. But Sis Sharima, on behalf of myself, my family, and the viewing audience of the People's Podcast, I want to thank you for your sacrifice, many sacrifices of you and your family. And we love you all and thank Allah for you. And please give your family the greetings, your children, grandchildren, everybody. Let them know we love them and we love you. And we look forward to you coming back, you know, more than this and, you know, trying to make this multiple times so you can come back and give us some more history. And I got some things I'm going to be doing where I'm going to share the screen to give some video footage show a clip and then ask you a question about you being there in the video footage. So we got some things we're gonna work on for part 3. But I just wanted to thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedule. Can't wait to put this on YouTube. And thank you all for watching. This is Joshua Leonard Muhammad signing off for the People's Podcast. Assalamu alaikum, man.
Walaikum salam. Assalamu alaikum.